Today we will be discussing the life and contributions of President Roosevelt, who was well known for his caring attitude towards all people and his desire for the growth of the nation. Before we dive in too deep to this segment, here's a brief intro into Roosevelt's contributions. As Roosevelt started his second campaign, he called it the Square Deal. During his presidency, he helped mitigate a strike that affected over 100,000 miners and hurt the hard coal industry. Roosevelt called both sides of the White House to resolve this issue. Management refused to give in, which then prompted Roosevelt to threaten them that the Army would take over the mines if the owners didn't give in. This was the first time we actually see a president partake and help in the defending of citizens. Roosevelt also took part in helping and focusing on economic issues. During this time, financial power was consolidated in trusts. As the governments looked into this, it revealed that there were corporate abuses such as water stock, which were payoffs to government officials. During the U.S. versus E.C. Knight, the Supreme Court diminished the Sherman Antitrust Act by saying that the federal law only applied to interstate commerce and not manufacturing, which led to the sugar refining company to control the majority of sugar-making factories. Roosevelt didn't oppose trusts. He wanted to make sure that everything was fair for everyone and make them more efficient. He then created the Department of Commerce and the Bureau of Corporations to strengthen federal investigation. He also made sure to make railroad systems fair and efficient. For example, he helped dissolve the Northern Security Company, who would monopolize railroads. Roosevelt also wanted a continuous regulation. He pushed Congress to strengthen the Interstate Commerce Commission. Congress then enacted the Elkins Act, which gave the ICC power to end rebates, which the railroads supported because it saved them costly practice of granting special fee reductions to large shippers. The popularity of Roosevelt's Square Deal led him to defeat all of the rivals in 1904. Now I'll shoot it over to Vita, who has a one-on-one exclusive with TR himself.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest for you tonight, all the way from New York City, President Theodore Roosevelt. Mr. Roosevelt, nice to have you with us tonight. Let's get started, shall we?
Yes, Vita.
Okay, first off, as a young boy, what activities did you participate in to help you overcome your sickness?
Well, I tried to build up my body through rigorous sports, while keeping my mind just as sharp by constantly studying. At one point in my life, I even hunted African game and explored the Amazon. Although these activities were exotic, the experiences taught me a lot about life, which in turn helped me when I was dealing with politics.
All right. Mr. Roosevelt, you're a very successful man in both politics and in the military. Would you mind listing just some of your greatest accomplishments so far?
Well, considering I am a very modest man, I will only list some of them. Way back in 1880, I won the election to the New York Assembly. Immediately after that, I became a Civil Service Commissioner, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, and the Rough Rider hero of the Spanish-American War. Not all at once, of course.
Very nice.
I found myself wanting to remain a Republican, and I did. Throughout these positions, I would say I called for the moderate change, even though progressivism is underway. By the time I was 40, I surprisingly won the election to reform governor of New York, and just a mere 2 years later, I served as vice president. And of course, now, at the age of 42, I am your current president.
Well, Mr. Roosevelt, things have been crazy for the last couple of years. Not only were the youngest president to ever hold office at the age of 42, but the first president to ride in an automobile, fly in an airplane, and dive in a submarine.
Yes, it sure has been crazy.
Anyways, where were we? Oh yes. What are your thoughts about the authority of the president when it comes comes to the Constitution?
Well, you see, I have a desire for order, an obligation to the community, and a heavy sense of presidential potential. You can quote me on that, sister. But many people, along with many past presidents, believe that the Constitution set limits on power. But for me, that is a touchy subject. I feel that the president could do anything not specifically forbidden in the document.
Okay. And lastly, racial injustice is becoming very prominent, especially now. What are some actions that you have taken to bring this injustice to the attention of the people, and why?
Well, I have recently invited a nice young fellow who went by the name of Booker T. Washington to have lunch with me at the White House one afternoon. After this, there were rumors floating around, and countless white Southern journalists referred to as an act of treason. How ridiculous could they be? From my point of view, it was more of a sign of principle in politics. It was all part of a black and tan plan to form a biracial union among Southern republics. At that point, I condemned lynching and appointed black Southerners to various central federal offices throughout Mississippi and South Carolina.
Okay, that's a wrap. There you have it, folks, an exclusive interview with Theodore Roosevelt.
You're welcome, Avita.
The American people are in a frenzy over Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. This novel seeks to shed light on the horrors of the American meatpacking industry. This novel includes accounts of meat layered with rat droppings, cows tainted with tuberculosis being killed and sold, and workers falling into cooking vats to be served as leaf lard. These horrific anecdotes have many Americans asking, what is in our meat?
Congress has followed up to these issues by passing the Pure Food and Drug Act, as well as the Meat Inspection Act. Congress hopes these laws will quell the country's uneasiness and keep food safe for the average American consumer.
In other news, our president hopes to protect the earth through educating Americans against recklessly using natural resources.
Stemming from a deep-set love for the outdoors, Roosevelt has been meeting with his chief forester, Gifford Pinchot, to discuss options for protecting the earth.
Speaking of conservation, there is a great debate about the water problem out in the western United States.
It is no secret that water is a necessary resource. The survival of the human race depends on it. However, the folks out west can't seem to get enough, while the rest of the world is looking to save the water supply. The great debate argues on the solution to the water problem. One side suggests conserving or planning the use of water in smaller amounts.
The other side, preservation, suggests setting aside water for future use. Although the nation differs on the solution, the problem is clear. With continual use at the current rate, water will become scarce.
Roosevelt has taken a very progressive stand on environmental issues and recently set aside 270 million acres of land to the government forest reserves, and has also commissioned a variety of experts to solve the nation's environmental problems. This is Avita and Delaney from Apush News, signing out.